Getting kicked out of my own office here.
Those French doors look nice, man. Dang.
Moving on up.
Wonder what the poor people do.
Right?
They just don't have any doors.
Yeah. That's like my office. I got no doors. Those kids come in whenever they want. It works.
Remember those old Hinkle days of no air conditioning?
Man, you talk about it. You talk about giving one away the other night in Hinkle.
Oh, dude.
That.
Yeah.
I think I went to my only college basketball game this year. I went to the Butler game that Kyle got me tickets for. And we saw the best game of the year.
Which one was it?
Against
who was that against?
Villanova.
Nova.
The like comeback overtime crazy game.
Yeah, that was I missed a couple of them. I missed that one, and then I missed Xavier game. That was a good one. I heard the crowd was pretty good for those too. So.
It was awesome. I haven't been to a college basketball game since no, because Kyle, you took me to a couple when I first moved to Indy. But
yeah, we'd get you in there.
Yeah.
You can't beat Hinkle. Can't beat Hinkle for a college basketball game.
Nope.
Yeah, it was really.
I need to get out there. Between IU and Butler being right next to you guys, I need to go to a college game out there.
You actually need to figure out, look at schedule, get to Purdue too. Purdue's like their atmosphere at their stadium and stuff. It's pretty crazy too. IU stadium's just there's so many bad seats. It's like it's just not. I mean, it's really a good environment because of the fans and it's sold out, and all that. But man, the seats, it goes. I mean, it's like straight up.
Yeah. It's better. It's made for like concerts basically. But Mackey is amazing. You definitely.
I haven't been to Mackey yet. I want to go see Maryland play at Mackey. I saw Maryland play at IU, and that was the first time I went there. Yeah, like Dustin, like they said, it's like straight up and down, and it's like the noise just goes back and forth. That's why it's so loud in there. It like reverberates.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can deal with the straight up and down seats just for that experience for a couple hours.
Yeah. We're waiting on one guy on this emergency coffee poop. But we can get started.
We can get started. Yeah.
Regardless, I haven't watched. This is like the least knowledgeable I've probably been on college basketball ever this year.
Well, that's why we're talking to an expert over here.
Ooh, that's a lot of pressure on that one. I tend at this time to root for the people I still have connections with in the game. So throw my brackets out with that.
Trying to connect.
It's harder the more kids you have, the harder it is to keep track of.
Ryan, just click the link, dude. What are you doing?
Crony, you guys done, Crony? You're gonna
technology
have more
experience. What'd you say, Kyle?
I was talking to Brandon. You guys done? Or you're gonna have more.
To and through, buddy. My daughter didn't sleep for the first 9 months till she had that colic or that reflux.
Oh yeah, that sounds terrible. Yep.
I didn't drink coffee before she was born, and now I can't move in the morning without it. So I'm to and through, man. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, we're done at 3. He's not sleeping very well either. So
he's not. I was going to ask how it's going, man. That third trial changes some things. You're in zone defense now, as everyone says.
Yeah, it's good though. I mean, with a 12 and 10-year-old sisters, like they're a game changer just because they can entertain them and feed them, and didn't have that with them. So
built-in babysitters.
Yeah, and they enjoy it too because there's such a age gap there that they enjoy like being around them. You know what I mean? It's not this annoying little. He's not annoying yet, but I'm sure he will at some point. But they love them. So they make it easier for me for sure. But
great.
Yeah, the operating on no sleep and coffee is kind of a thing now. So
relatable.
Yep.
If you want to get started, I'll just work with him outside. I don't know why he's having so much trouble. But
because he's an idiot.
Well, you would think a guy who worked in tech for a little while.
All right, guys, another episode of Gary Williams Stole My Lawn Furniture. We got Brandon Crone on here to talk some college hoops. Brandon played for Butler from I think 04 to 07.
03 to 07.
Yep. 03 to 07. Brandon, if you want to give yourself a little intro, just to let people know, what you do, your background.
Yeah. Yep. So I said played Butler from 03 to 07. Had some really good years. Then I went overseas for 3 years to play. Was in France, Hungary, Germany, Sweden, Poland. It's kind of all over the map for 3 years, and then got into college coaching. Had a quick stop at the high school level, and then won a state championship here in Park Tudor in Indianapolis with a guy named Ed Schilling, who's now an assistant at Grand Canyon. So I said, I picked this March Madness. It's all about connecting and who's still in.
Awesome.
Then coached down at Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale for 3 years. Came back to the alma mater at Butler for 6 years, and then spent another 2 years down at Evansville with my former coach at Butler, Todd Licklider. Kind of got out of college coaching. We got let go, and now I'm an athletic director at Carmel Dads Club, which is rec sports and travel sports here. We have about 15,000 members and 13 sports, over 200 acres and stuff that we maintain. So kind of got thrown into the rec world, and that's been quite the undertaking as well.
Oh, that's awesome. We have a little bit of a crossover with our Terps background here. Your 07 team that you were the captain of and the MVP of beat our Terps in the round of 32. I just want to give a little bit of a background on that team for Terps fans. You don't remember that team. That team featured Grievous Vasquez, DJ
Greasy
Strawberry,
Vasquez.
Eric Hayes, some shades of the 2010 team that we love, that fell to Michigan State, unfortunately. But yeah, Mike Jones, who?
That's a throwback.
Yeah. After they took the Terps down that year, Butler took it to reigning national champion Florida, lost in the Sweet 16 in overtime, but Florida was on their way to win their second national title. What was it like playing against Corey Brewer, Al Horford, Joakim Noah, those guys?
Gave them their toughest game of the tournament, didn't they?
Yeah, we did. It's interesting. Actually, look at stats too. I believe Florida, who normally shot like 50 or 60% from the foul line, shot 90% from the foul line, and which was really kind of only one of the main reasons they were able. But had a 2-point game. Al Horford decided to back me down from the 3-point line. I know you can't tell from the screen, but I'm not near as big as he was. Took the charge. They decided to go the other way with it. Since have talked to that ref who called it, and I was also said it was the wrong call. But we won't rehash that too much. No, that team was.
I will as a fan. I'll rehash it. That was terrible call. Terrible call.
Yeah, Mike, our senior point guard, Mike Green, had got fouled, and he actually missed 2 free throws, which it was kind of uncommon. And and then after that, they kind of got us. But man, that team was so good. Brewer, I mean, he could switch. What they did, especially with Noah and Horford and Brewer, they just switched everything. And, their size and length really kind of bothered our guards. We were able to kind of get some threes on them and keep it close. But, man, that team was really good. I think that's the last team that's won back-to-back, right? I think UConn's the one trying to do it this year. But, so you think about how good they had to be to go back-to-back. It hasn't happened again. And, man, they had 6 NBA guys when you count it, even a couple that didn't even play, like Maurice Spates, I think, was on that team. Like, didn't even see the court. So it was pretty, and to take them that close, I mean, obviously we felt like we would have been the first, Final Four team at Butler if you win that game, with the route. But did have a heck of a year, and enjoyed taking down Maryland though. That was a fun too.
Who was the main guy on that team, Dustin? Was I think DJ Strawberry was on that team too?
Strawberry was on that team. We had Mike Jones actually had the best game against Butler. I was looking at the box score, but that was the team that had a Kenny Ebekwe and James Gist on it. Two big forwards that we had inside. McKenny Ebekwe had the most insane free throw shooting motion of all time. But yeah, I mean, underrated guy for that Florida team that you played too, Taurine Green. He didn't do much in the NBA, but that dude was an absolute stud in college. I remember watching him thinking he was going to be the best of those guys. And
Yeah, he
you
was
know,
really good. He had a good game against us too. Yeah.
Yeah, those the NBA works in a little bit of different ways with those guys somehow. But another little Terps connection, 010 or in 2010 when Butler actually did make the championship at Final Four. That was my personal favorite basketball team of all time. And we were in the bracket right next to Kansas as the 8-9 matchup. And Ali Faroukmanesh beat Kansas, and we were set to face Northern Iowa. We had to get past Michigan State, and Tom Izzo'd us. Corey Lucius put a dagger down, and then Butler came out of our side of the bracket and almost beat Duke in 2010. You weren't coaching at Butler during that 2010 season, correct?
No, so I was actually, it's kind of funny story. I was playing in Sweden at the time, and we were in the playoffs, and but I had gotten hurt. I had pulled my hamstring, and it was over Easter, I think, if I remember right, that Final Four games. And so I told the team, I'm like, hey, I got to go home. I'm like, Butler's in Indy, they're in the Final Four, like I got to go home. And at the time, I don't know what the ticket cost was, 3,000, something like that. And they're like, no, hold on, like we were playing all this. I was like, look, I'll split the ticket with you. I'm going home. I'm going to be at this game. And, they actually took care of it. And then, I was at that open practice, and Kyle, you probably there, man. I mean, just
over 30,000 people at a shoot around.
Clapping. And when they came out, I mean, it was a nut. I mean, it was just nuts to be in Indy and be the underdog that, and was just insane. And I was actually on the plane of Gordon Hayward's first shot, which was a baseline shot that also should have went down and probably would have would have went up 1 or 2 that just barely missed. So that was insane. That was an insane run, and really fun to be around.
Yeah, that was double daggers as a Terps fan watching that, because everyone in the whole world's rooting for Butler, and everyone. I mean, as Terps fans, we can't hate Duke more. Kyle Singler, Nolan Smith, John Shire, who's now their coach. I hated that team so much. All the Plumlees they could get.
They got any more pipeline still? Man, they did have Plumlees for a while, didn't they?
Yeah, they had so many Plumlees. There's one still playing for the Clippers, I think. Yeah.
They only lost one to IU. I think they lost Plumlee to IU.
I think we can start talking about, unless you guys want to talk about anything else before we go into a little bit of breakdown on the bracket. No,
I was going to get Kyle a little intro. So those who don't know Kyle Smith, he worked in fundraising at Butler for 10, 12 years, something like that.
Yeah, close to 15.
15. If you want to go into some of your background at Butler, but he's kind of had a front row seat to all those Butler teams and have been to a ton of tournament games just being close to the program. So just wanted to give you a little intro.
I was
give a little background into that.
I was an 03 Butler grad. That team went to the Sweet 16 as well as Brandon's class did in 07. But I worked for the Horizon League right out of college, which was the conference Butler was in at the time. And then came back to Butler and worked in fundraising athletics for like almost 13 or 14 years. But I think my first year in athletics was that 09-10 season. So it was a good time to come on board. Those 2 Final Four runs will, being able to like be behind the scenes for all that is just, I mean, it was a lot of work for us as staff, but you think about the further you get away from it, the more amazed you are. You're like, how did we do that? Like, how did we do it once, let alone back-to-back years? And then between you lose your NBA player, from 10 to 11, or one of your NBA players. So, those were some magical times, and it was cool. Like, Brandon was trying to get back for the game, but like it just brought everybody back. I mean, everybody came back, former players, alums. It was like everybody came back to Indianapolis in 2010, and it was a lot of fun. And I hate watching that shot go in and out. It's like I can't even watch it anymore. Like, it's brutal. But it was amazing to be home. Actually, coming back after we'd won the Elite Eight game, we fly back from Salt Lake City, and the buses going back to Hinkle, it was insane. Like we had the police escort. You come around the corner there, and I don't know how many people were outside Hinkle waiting for the team to come back. But that was awesome moment, I feel like. So, but anyway, did that. Now live in South Carolina. I'm not in college sports anymore. I'm a stay-at-home dad, pretty much. So occasionally Yeah, occasionally I get the
Hey, I
time.
want some of that. How do I get to that? Dang.
You got to marry a doctor, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, my connection here is, I married Brooks and Caitlin. I don't know why they asked me to. Did you know that, Crone? I don't know if you knew that.
I think you mentioned on them before, but no, not to that.
Yeah. So I don't know why they asked me to marry him, but I went online and got the $30 Reverend degree and had the pleasure of marrying two of my best friends. So.
And you married anyone else
doing it. You were very well
No,
spoken.
that degree is it expired after a year. So
you got to take continuing education to keep that up.
Yeah, he's going to grad school for it.
Yeah. No more weddings for me. But that was fun. So I do have one funny story though, like with Crone and that Sweet 16 or the Maryland game was on St. Patrick's Day, right? It was on Saturday, I think March 17th. And we had mutual friends that were getting married that day. Brandon knew someone from one side was Frankfurt, the other side was Butler, had a wedding that day. I don't know who schedules a wedding during March Madness, but
or St. Patty's.
Or
in
St. Patty's
Indiana.
Day in Indiana. But anyway, so we watched like basically the whole game from the church or through halftime. And then after halftime, I was like, oh, what are we going to do? Like I said, everybody's like, wants to know what's going on in this game. And Will Haskett, who you guys had on a few weeks ago for the PGA stuff, he was in the stands. He and I got together. I was like, dude, you got to like let me know how the game's going. Well, because I was a groomsman. I'm up front. I'm like, I need to know how this game is going. So like during the game, his wife is mad at him. He's like on his phone getting score updates, and he's like looking at me going like this or like this.
Yeah.
Like the whole time we're like, I'm like, oh, what's going on? And I'm like, meanwhile, this wedding's going on, but it was like the fastest like procession or whatever out. Like it was like everybody's get back to the room, flip the game on, watch the end of the game. And that was an awesome win. But yeah, we had a lot of green beer celebrating the wedding and the win. So, but anyway, I'm done.
I'll tell you this: as a bartender, there is nothing worse than green beer.
especially the next morning.
It's the worst. Cleaning up after all that green stuff, it's just a nightmare. Complete nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can start talking about the bracket a little bit. I think the overarching favorite for the tournament seems to be UConn. And the betting lines reflect that they're like 3-1 to win the tournament, which is pretty outrageous. 31-3 this year. Pretty much dominated all season. They lost a couple of starters to the NBA, and they just kind of retooled. Had a transfer come in. Have you guys been able to watch a lot of UConn this year? What do you see out of them, and do you think they're prone to repeat, or do you think it's going to be something else?
Well, I think, I mean, we just talked about a little bit of Florida, right? I mean, how hard it is to repeat. You know, it's not an easy thing in this type of tournament, but I think they have everything to repeat. When you have Newton, who's coming back, and side note, I actually coached his brother at Evansville, Jawan Newton. So, but he just leads the charge. They've got they're two bigs that just dominate in terms of, when you have two bigs that you can kind of go in and out and sub in and out with, instead of just one you have to rely on. That solves so much from a foul trouble perspective. You know, you see sometimes with Purdue, you know, Edey gets 2 fouls, he's on the bench, and it's like they're a whole different team. UConn doesn't have that. I mean, they've got two bigs they can go in. They've got the guard play. So I mean, honestly, they have everything to repeat. But I do think they're in one of the toughest, you know, sides that there is too.
Yeah, I mean, look at this bracket. They got SDSU. I mean, Final 14 from last year. Illinois has been crazy hot this year. Auburn's been pretty solid. I mean, and if they make it all the way down, they got either Baylor, UNC, Arizona potentially. I mean, their
FAU
side
on that side too.
Yeah, FAU.
Yeah,
FAU is right next to them.
Yeah,
FAU also Final Four, returning 7 out of their 8 rotational guys too. So that's funny thing that UConn in the first round is playing Stetson. Stetson's best player is Jalen Blackman, his older brother James. You might remember from IU fame. Good 3-point shooter. That's why I think that's just a funny little crossover for IU. You Indiana boys out there.
Pride of Munster.
we hate IU though. We hate IU.
Yeah, we do hate IU.
Well,
My wife went
Brooks's
to IU.
wife went there. No. Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on Danny Hurley? In regards to just his demeanor, how he handles himself. Obviously won a national championship. Okay. But he's a little bit of an old school guy. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a chance to obviously be at some of those games and see the demeanor. I mean, there's no question he's got he loves his players in the way, and he's hard on them and stuff. I do struggle a little bit with how he's able to talk to the refs and kind of go at those refs and berate them. When I was on staff with Laval and Hold, and they were sometimes when there was a new guy in town, like they couldn't say anything to him. I mean, they would just get on him right away. Whereas, you win a national title and now they just let this guy get away with anything. I mean, when he's on the court. And so I don't love it personally. I mean, obviously it's everyone's style. I mean, I think a guy I do love, like Shaka Smart. If you watch Shaka Smart on side, I know he kind of gets on the court a little bit at times. People make fun of that, but his demeanor to the refs, like he just doesn't complain. I mean, he is just coaches his players. And I think there's something to that too. I mean, Hurley's antics kind of they weigh on me. I don't love it, but
I have an issue with him. He reminds me a lot of Bobby Knight. And the Bobby Knight thing for me is he preaches discipline, but the only person that doesn't show any discipline is the coach who's preaching discipline, and that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, no, that's well said. I mean, I think you even saw that incident in Creighton, right? I mean, he yelled at that. I don't know if you guys saw that, but as he's going through the tunnel, yelling at the fans. And then there was an interview 2 days later, and he just took no accountability in terms of it was like they need to have a tarp, they need to have this as a drunk. It was like, dude, you could just put your head down and walk out too. Like it's not. I mean, it's like we don't need to put a tarp just because you can't control yourself to not yell at a fan, right? I mean, I used to have people chanting out. I mean, they had a cardboard printout at Wright State of my girlfriend at the time. Printout, I mean, it's like you don't have to like.
That's
engage.
Awesome. That's awesome.
That was on Facebook. I got catfished on Facebook or something, and then they got a hold of it, and they put a big billboard. I walked out to that, so. I'm with you. I mean, it's like it's not that hard to just put do that. So that's the part that is tough. Is he's so crazy, but yet you do want your players to be composed and calm down and and run the show.
Like some of the shit he does borderline like I need therapy. I mean, he's like wearing the same underwear, the same hat after stuff. Like what's happening here? I mean, Wade Boggs ate the same sandwich every day. Okay, that's cool, but not wearing the same underwear.
I mean, think about what Duke and Coach K went through for 20, 30 some years. I mean, I remember like Christ, Maryland fans used to throw like nickels at them coming in and out of the stadium, and he never complained about it and never got into it with fans. I mean, not that that's a great look for Maryland, but it happens. But I mean,
yeah.
It's just.
I think at some point it's going to get him in trouble. Like something's going to happen. It's not just verbal. Like something's going to happen, and it won't be good.
It'll boil over.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm surprised he hasn't pulled the Juwan Howard yet and punched another coach or something.
Probably coming. I mean, it could be coming.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully for their opponent's sake, that doesn't happen. In this tournament.
Who's the one coach you wouldn't want to get in a fight with? Juwan Howard would have been mine, but he's gone now.
Or Sean Miller because he's so sweaty. I want to shout out a couple sleepers in this region. BYU played a tough schedule. They can make threes in bunches. They're playing Duquesne in the first round, and they're favored by like 10. They beat Kansas at Kansas. I know this isn't the best Kansas team in years, but any team that can shoot the three and light it up a little bit is prone to make a run. So I wanted to mention them. And then Drake barely lost last year in the first round to Miami. Miami ended up making a run to the Final Four, and they have a NBA prospect in Tucker DeVries that's really good. Another one of those tournament things. These mid-major teams with them NBA talent, they have a chance to make a little bit of a run.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have Drake going really far in mine. I have him, I think, beating Iowa State. But,
I do.
Tucker DeVries, I coached against him 2 years ago when he was a freshman. There you go. I like it. I mean, he's so good. I mean, he's 6'6", 6'7", can shoot, can bring it up. They have such a good program in terms of just defensively, and their system and runs. And I really like him as a coach. DeVries is just when I watched in the league, his coaching, we talk about demeanor and some of that stuff, but like he has great demeanor. He's great, kind of just an aura about him in a way. Like he was really fun to kind of learn from, even though we lost. I think if you look at that box score at Evansville when we went there, I think it was like 92 to like 40, maybe. That might play into my reason why I think Drake's pretty good too.
Brandon, what do you think plays more? Do you think it's camaraderie and teams that are together longer now, or do you think it's individualism?
It's still camaraderie and the being old. I do. It's just in this tournament, you things come at you so fast. Being able to regroup for the next game. I mean, if you're individualized and going through that, it's hard. I think that's why you see so many upsets in this tournament, right? I mean, it's like you turn right around and the teams that are so together. I mean, you're spending like these teams already flew out, right? So they flew out on the day, sometimes 2 days before they even have the game to go to that city. So you're with each other for, especially if you're winning. I mean, just every moment. And I think there's something to be said for that. It's why you don't see a lot of the young teams and the guys that just haven't been through it. Because it is the best time of the year, but it's a grind.
Is it weird playing it like in front of, I mean, there's really no home court advantage. It's a little weird not having like a ton of fans there. I mean, I know fans will travel, but it's still nothing like playing at home.
No, I don't know if it's weird that honestly, I think that the toughest challenge, even, when I was on staff at Butler, we went to tourney 5 straight times. And when you go there, the arenas, right, are so different. You're not playing in the home court college gym, so usually the spacing, the lighting, a lot of times these games are in hockey arenas, like in the first round. So the lights are on the side, like they're just different. I mean, there's kind of blind spots in a way. Like there's times where you're on a corner / wing and you just can't see because it's just different. So that is more so that, I mean, the fans, because what'll usually happen or what we've seen is the other 2 teams that play the next game, they're going to pick a side, and then one team got a home court advantage. So that's kind of, I would say more the arena and the lights are what's kind of tougher than the actual fans.
I have so many questions, and I'm going to shut up. But do you go around? Do you check for like dead spots on the court or anything? Because you're obviously changing arenas. You're getting used to the environment. Go check for dead spots. Do you look for those dark spots or those blind spots that you said? Do you go do that pregame?
So you don't do pregame. What happens is all these teams get an open practice, right? So it's like a 40-minute open practice. If you ever attended one of those, they don't do anything in it but dunk and shoot the ball. Like there's no gameplay being discussed, and that's when you're doing that. You're doing a lot of your shooting drills from different places, and and seeing like that, and the players will recognize that, right? Your point guard or your wing, like they're the ones kind of dribbling around, like dang, it's it. But dead spots not so much, just because I mean today's game, the guards, I mean, it doesn't affect that. I think the lighting is the biggest, and you do check that by just the shooting drills and kind of doing both sides in that open practice.
Yeah, I asked because you said you play in hockey arenas, which means they usually probably putting the court down the day prior, 2 days prior, so they might fuck something up.
Yeah, I don't think it ever came to. I mean, there definitely are some there. There's no question. I don't remember any of those causing like dang, we turned it over because of that or that spot. But the lights for sure, like dang, I couldn't see right there.
Cron, when you guys played,
I didn't think about the lights, but I remember people like always saying like the getting your depth perception down at some of these arenas was a big deal. But I that's a good point about the lights. I didn't think about that.
I think it's changed a lot, right, Brand? When you were in the Sweet 16, like versus that, you were in the football stadium, right? Didn't you guys play in a football stadium?
Yeah, I was in St. Louis. It was Edward Jones Dome, and they had brought the bleachers out, and they basically cut it in half. And I mean, the arena was in half. I mean, to your point of the depth perception, that was really. And I actually saw a picture of that the other day. But the scoreboard, I mean, it was so far back of anything we had seen all year. So I mean, you adjust again. You get a pre-practice in there, so you're going to kind of learn. But there is something to be said in terms of the depth perception and the lighting.
Yeah, I always think it's so bizarre that the the last game of the NCAA season's in a football stadium. Like the court is like elevated above the
Yeah, it's
benches. I
elevated.
just think it must be so bizarre for the players, like trying to get used to that throughout the game.
Yeah, it's a very different
It's got
experience.
it's got to take a couple minutes because I mean, even if you go and shoot around like the day before, I mean, once you're playing with a little bit of adrenaline, that's going to change too. So
Yeah, and you get fans in there, and they're in the background too. It all
Dude, what if you
changes.
roll
Yeah.
off the court? You fall down, what, 2 feet?
it's
Yeah.
carpeted. It's carpeted off that.
Just hit the chairs, hit the people in the chairs.
Is it
Well,
shag carpet?
Yeah.
I think what I remember is like in the Final Four in 2010 and 2011 when we were in Houston, how long of a walk that is from your locker room to the court. I mean, it took like 5 minutes just to get to the playing surface. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
so when we played at that Edward Jones Dome, and then at time we actually the interview rooms and stuff, we would have to get on a golf cart. So I'd have to get on a golf cart, to be taken to the interview room and then shuttled back because it was so far, especially it was on the opposite side of the stadium. I mean, it's half a mile or so you're walking across. So yeah, I remember hopping on that cart and then taking you down there.
We've dispersed a lot about that. Let's move on to the some more UNC's region out west, playing in Los Angeles. Actually, Arizona, 2-seeded Arizona is favored to win this region over UNC very slightly. I think the odds makers opened it about even, and then a lot of public money went towards Arizona, which is surprising to me. Arizona lost last year as a 2-seed to Princeton, who was 15. So it's kind of confusing that the public is shying towards them. I think there's what do you guys think about Arizona UNC, that dichotomy? Do you think one stands over the other?
I don't know. I don't want to hog the stage here, but I've got UNC going far, and part of it was just what we talked about with the being old. I think what hurts him is going out west, time change, and some of that stuff. But I mean, I think Cormac Ryan's like my age, like he's almost 40 or something. Like, how long has he been in there? I mean, their big's been there, so they have experience. They have experience in this tournament. So I do like them, but I think there's something to be said to Arizona because they're going to have more. They'll be able to have. It's a closer travel, right? So you're probably having some fans and an experience with that. But I personally have UNC out of this, and we'll see.
I don't have UNC. I don't know. I don't know why they're in a tournament, but Michigan State, I don't know. It's like you can't go against Izzo. I don't know. He gets in, he's gonna win. Like I feel like he's gonna at least win one, probably at least two. So I actually have Michigan State beating UNC. And that's the thing. Everyone's like, well, why are they in? And they're going to prove why they're in. It happens
Big
all the time.
Izzo fan, huh? What's he done since the 2001 national title?
I didn't say I was a fan. I just said he wins games when he gets in the tournament. That's all I said.
He's still the
me?
last Big Ten team to win.
Yeah, and I didn't really like what I saw to UNC. I know it was one game, but man, they didn't look great against NC State. But
they look great against Duke, though. At Duke,
twice. They beat Duke twice this year. I think it's funny that if we get a 1-2 seed, a 1-2 matchup in this bracket, we got a little Caleb Love crossover. Caleb Love helped lead UNC to the 2022 Final Four and transferred to Arizona, and he's been their best player. We know he's going to put it up and light it up, so that would be really fun. A little UNC Arizona.
That's always an interesting one too. Is when you're because those only go two ways. Like he's not going to have if Arizona UNC matchup, he's not just going to have like an okay game. He's either going to be terrible or he's going to like have 40. I mean, there's no like he's just good. Like when you go against your former team or and those things. I mean, just the extra adrenaline, the extra momentum. Like I say, you either do awful, and you're like, gosh, what happened to him, or he's going to be the best player and he will win it for him. So that's what will be interesting to see.
You mentioned. Sorry. You mentioned Michigan State. We got a couple more sleepers. Sorry, Brooks, I'm cutting you off here, but I know you mentioned Grand Canyon earlier. You have a connection to them. They got a potential NBA draft prospect and Ty and Grant Foster. He's like a 6'7" swing man. He averages 20 and 6 casual. They're a 12 seed getting a lot of attention. Have you watched a lot of them? Have you been able to pay attention to them?
So I haven't. It's hard to watch West Coast games. Yeah, I've got two kids. I've got. I mean, it's like the time they come on and the thing. So, and then obviously Grand Canyon doesn't get a ton of the time games. So I haven't. Obviously Bryce Drew knows what he's doing in the tournament. And as a player and has gotten this team there a couple times. And yeah, like I said, I've got them going far, but that's just because of the personal connection. So, and if you're going to take a 12 seed, I'm one that I at least know and want to cheer for, right? Because
absolutely
5-12's coming, so why not let it be them?
Yeah, I have another interesting sleeper in this region. Like I said, New Mexico. Rick Pitino's son coaching used to be at Minnesota. They also have Jamal Mashburn and Eddie House's sons on their team. Little legacy team in New Mexico. Yeah. But yeah, they could make a run. A lot of people like them as an athletic team. They're taking on Clemson in the first round. I think Clemson was just kind of a middling ACC team this year. Yeah, you got a little South Carolina, Clemson.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of South Carolina teams in. I got Charleston, South Carolina, Clemson.
I got Charleston going far. Not to get off subject there.
I got Charleston beating Alabama too, baby.
There you go.
They have what's his name what's their coach's name? He was at Xavier, right, for a while.
Yes, he was at Xavier.
And then he was at Winthrop and we whipped him.
Gosh dang it! Why am I?
Pat Kelsey.
Yes, I was going to say I kept saying Pat Kelsey.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's another thing we should look out for. Alabama, they run like that pro style offense for Nate Oates. And they're pretty terribly rated defensively. So the over under in that game is 173.5, which is ridiculously high for a college basketball game. So that's going to be an interesting game to watch. At worst, just throw it on the TV, and it's likely going to be a pretty high scoring game.
Yeah. The defensive teams will definitely go. I mean, you see that with Houston last year. You've got to be able to play some defense. Guard play and defense are the two that I think you have to definitely look out for on teams.
Moving on to the South region, we're going to talk about Houston. They're the favorites in this region to win. They're 5-1 to win the tournament, 6-1 depending on kind of where you get it. They lost a couple guys, but they still have their point guard Jamal Sheed. One Big 12 player of the year. He's a menace on defense, gets a lot of steals. And I think perimeter defense, especially in this day and age, is very limited. So I think that's a super valuable thing to have. But this bracket is stuffed with blue bloods. Duke and Kentucky and this little area, Florida's in there. You guys, have you seen any Houston? I know they got kind of killed by Iowa State in that Big 12 title game. That's the most recent.
I saw a couple of their games, and obviously defense. I mean, it's one of those things. I don't know that they have the guard play in the offense, so I kind of have a sneaky one in there, and is Nebraska. Like the way Nebraska shot the ball, and I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, I watch them, and if they're shooting like they've shot sometimes this year, I don't know how many threes a game, but they've got to be close to the top. So I've got them kind of as a sleeper there, and I like Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's on that side too, if I remember. I should have.
They play James Madison.
Yeah, I got Wisconsin and Nebraska going and kind of knocking out Houston. So
like the teams with all the white guys on. What it sounds
you know what? I like shooting. What can I say? I like to shoot it.
All right, how come I have not heard of this Asian dude for Nebraska until this year?
I think he just started up. He's like the Jeremy Lin, popped out of nowhere.
I love it.
He's so fun to watch.
I'm so into this.
Yeah.
I think I was like, he was on, they were like showing like everyone's best player, like in the Big Ten when they were, whatever it was, like the lineup or whatever. And I'm like, who? And you notice all these guys, and then this Nebraska guy. I'm like, is that a tennis player? Like, who is that guy? And then I watch a game. I'm like, this dude. Yeah, I'm like, this dude just lights it up.
He's hitting step backs. He's going on the court like this. I'm like,
that's my sleeper.
Yeah, I love it, man. I've only watched like 1 or 2 games of his, like, and I was like, who is this dude? And apparently, his dad's like a 6'11" professional basketball player, so he's been shooting over a 7-footer his entire life.
I didn't know that. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
There you go. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Two seed in this region is Marquette. Kolick, their best player, has been out. Missed 6 straight games. He was the Big East Player of the Year last year. So that might affect them. They're going to have a tough second round matchup with either Colorado or Florida. I don't know. I can see Florida kind of taking them out if Kolick doesn't play or if he's playing hurt. I can see them that Florida team making a little run. They made a run in the SEC tournament. They kind of got stopped in the championship by Auburn, but
yeah, they're playing well right now. Kolick is playing though. He practiced
back.
all week, so he
Yeah.
will play. And I mean, they'll be a little rusty, but if he gets that first game to kind of get back, that's a scary team. And, you know, again, I got bias a little bit, Big East bias, but I was at the Marquette Butler game and I watched those guys up front and they are physical. Marquette is physical. They're long, they're athletic. And then again, I think they can defend, and if they got the guard in Cole, who's, you know, I think got All-American again this year too, though. If he's back to even close to form, that's a scary team right there.
That's my pick to win it all is Marquette.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a scary team. I don't hate the pick because it all comes down to Ty Cole if he's, you know, can get back to form and has a good enough game. But he's a really good player, and they're physical and they play defense.
I don't know where I saw that. I think I saw this on either Twitter or Instagram or something, and I don't know if it was just one of those Adam Schefter phony accounts, but apparently Marquette is like the biggest. Most people have taken Western Kentucky to beat Marquette as like the upset in the first round, which after hearing you guys talk, I don't know much about Marquette. After hearing you guys talk, that seems a little far-fetched. So.
Yeah, I don't see Shaka letting that happen.
Yeah, but West Kentucky has Christian Langford from IU, the IU transfer, and actually Steve Lutz, who was on staff at Creighton. He was a longtime assistant with Purdue and Creighton, and is now the Western Kentucky team. So he knows the Big East a little bit, but I just if they're playing well, I don't see that one happening.
I want to go a little off topic here real quick and get away from the bracket for a second. How has NIL really affected your life and how you go about things on a daily basis?
So I'm now the executive director of the All Good Dogs, which is the Butler Collective, our nonprofit. So basically, the way it's affected is players are getting paid, and so to kind of put that in, the recruiting has changed so much and so drastically. With the portal was already there and kind of changing a lot of things, and then now you have to throw in NIL money with the portal. So trying to figure that out. The other thing, you know, people say Wild Wild West, which I don't think it's that. It is kind of organized, so to speak, but the problem is you don't know what's real, right? So you know, a kid saying, oh, well, Maryland just offered me $100K. What do you have? Like, no one knows if that was what it was offered or if that's what they're getting. You know, so it's like, you know, or an agent calling and saying, you know, hey, we got this much on table. What can you do? Or we're leaving, or, you know, so it's like, that's the part that's just kind of made it more, that's the Wild Wild West part. Cause there's no set like contract or set salary cap, like the NBA or something where, you know, what you're working with. Right. So that's where it's really changed. And then it's the retention piece. I mean, that's what the part I don't miss about college coaching now is because, you know, when we were coming up and, you love to be a Butler. You loved it. Like, you knew you're going to keep like getting better, get your shot. Now it's like, if I don't get my shot, I'm out. So even if you retain these players, even if you're, you know, meeting with them daily, giving them skill development. I mean, one of our best players at the time at Evansville, I mean, we were meeting all the time with him. I'm helping him. I'm doing extra workouts. And it was just like, yeah, I'm out. I'm going to see what's better. You know, it's just like, oh, like what? Like, so that's the part that's changed so much.
I got so many questions. Do you make these kids sign contracts? I mean, it sounds like no. Based on
well, depend. No, so from the All Good Dogs perspective, yes. So how it works is they go do service work. So they'll sign a contract. So let's take Riley Children's Hospital for example, right? I work with Riley Children's Hospital. Hey, what's your event? What day? What do they need to do? Okay, perfect. Put that in a contract and put the money of what it be attached to it. Player looks at it, signs it. As long as he completes all that service part, then then they kind of get their money. So that's really what's been doing, or supposed to be kind of being done around the country is hopefully some service work with this, because it's not supposed to be pay for play. It's supposed to. It really started. I mean, my issue with it a little bit is it started and was really brought out for the tennis player, for the baseball player, for that you have a name, the LSU Livy Dunn, like you've got a name, you've got people on, like you have a brand, you go capitalize on it. Not, hey, you're guaranteed to have money to play for Butler basketball, right? Or you're guaranteed to have money as the 10th guy on the team. Like that's not what this was intended for, is for your brand and for you to go kind of do it. That's where I don't love it.
Yeah.
I bring this up because it sounds like there's no loyalty to anybody anymore. And I was texting with Brooks and Dustin yesterday, and just about this kid from Iowa, this left tackle. Obviously, we're skewing away from basketball for a second, but he went to Iowa, then went to Alabama, then left Alabama, went back to Iowa, took $100,000, never played a game, and then went back to Alabama. And it just sounds like there's no loyalty whatsoever. Now that's got to be maddening for people in your position.
Oh no, it is. I mean, that's what I was brought up on, was loyalty, right? I mean, that's what you brought up on. So it is. And then the other part is, to your point, is what's the ROI on this, right? I mean, what's the return of investment? I mean, there is none. Let's be honest, there is no return on investment on this stuff. Like, now I guess you could argue there was with Miami last year, right? Nigel Pack and what they went to the Final Four, Elite Eight, wherever they got, how far I forget, but so in a way they paid for those and they got it, right? There was a little bit there, but for all these other ones that you don't make it or you don't get far, like, I mean, what's your ROI here? Like, so, the loyalty part's hard. I mean, having to re-recruit your guys, and that's just hard. It's not a fun thing to do.
Yeah, on top of the other recruiting you have to do, recruiting your own guys, that's got to be just exhausting. And I guess on the flip side, to play devil's advocate, I've heard of some terrible contracts that some of these kids are signing where like they can basically take a portion of whatever they make, even if they turn professionals. So like, there's just some there's some terrible contracts that these kids are signing as well, and that's not going to benefit them in the future and probably hinder them pretty bad.
And the amount of scumbags and poaching that has to be out there, it's got to be astronomical.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Anytime you're talking about this type of money and across the board, people are going to try to get in on it, right? Or try to, find a way to con somebody or do something. So that's the education piece that we try, here at Butler. We don't have major football, right? So that piece is out. So we kind of focuses on the other athletes and men's basketball in particularly a lot. But you try to give that education, that tax education, right? No one knows that. I barely know how to do taxes still. I mean, and you're giving them this stuff, is like, I put the tax thing on my wife. I'm like, hey, that's your responsibility. Let me know what documents you need. But so it's like that education piece is so important to this because when I was the opposite Butler, I told the players at the time, this was before NIL, but the cost of attendance had just kind of come in where they could make a little bit. But I was telling them, hey, if you don't leave school without $10,000 in your bank account, you're doing something wrong. This was before NIL. So, now the fact in the numbers and, so I don't know if they're getting enough of the education. And I think that's really where, these kids, hopefully these schools are helping, but I think it's going to be brought in-house soon. I do. Whether that's a year from now, 2 years from now, you can't have these two separate, you're outside the university, but you're with the university, you're with I just do. I think it's going to come in house, and that the universities are going to have to kind of figure out. And then does it change it to employment, right? I mean, that guy goes and has a 2-point game. Can he get fired? I mean, or like what? I mean, you take and that's not good. I don't want that, right? Being a player, you're going to have ups and downs. I mean, that's not a good thing either.
Yeah, I mean, when you get the greatest college football coach of all time starting to talk to Congress, something's probably going to be coming down the line eventually. Yeah. So.
Yeah, because this is on the track. This is what's already off the tracks, and it doesn't seem it's ever getting on the tracks until Congress or somebody makes some legislation.
Yeah, but Congress, from what we're hearing too, in a way, is I don't know that Congress wants to get involved. They can't agree on half the stuff. Like, so but I mean, the NCAA Congress, they've got to get it. It's not going to go back on the tracks. They made blue chips in what, 1980? I mean, about 1980 something. Well, 1995. So things were going around then, right? People getting a tractor. I don't know if you guys saw the movie Blue Chips, but it's basically all about getting paid on the side to get recruits. So it's been happening. Now it's just, as Coach Mata likes to say, it's NIL. All it stands for is now it's legal.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that too.
I mean, we know how slow government moves. So I mean, Christ, it's gonna have to come from the NCAA, which I mean, I hate NCAA too. I mean, and that's right in our backyard downtown. But I mean, there's got to be a middle ground here.
Yeah, if it is not, it's just gonna turn into free agency in college sports, which is not good. Not
good
what
for
we
the
want for
fans,
college sports.
I think they're seeing it now because the viewership. I mean,
Yeah.
just for myself, and I mean, I know we got kids here, but I mean, Dustin and Brian don't have kids, and we're like looking at the bracket, like, man, I feel like I don't know this as well as I always like I usually do. Like I'm filling this out blind. I feel like this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm almost doing what my girlfriend would do, is just like pick the best mascot. And
yeah, it's like, oh, I remember when so and so was good in 2015. I feel like they might win.
I mean, what's stopping a kid from putting himself on eBay and to say, "Hey, come get me"? It's bitter.
Nothing. Nothing right now is good. Yeah, well, I mean, you talk about you guys could name, right? I mean, I think you look back at box score, but you remember the 2007 Maryland team, a 2010 those players. Those, I mean, I'm about to say they tell me who was on 2022 team. You're like probably going to struggle a bit because you don't, you just don't have the 4 years of like you knew that guy and he grew and that's for all the teams. I mean, Duke had him, Maryland had him, Michigan State had but now every single team has these transfers and. Is it best? I don't know, but there's some apathy to the fans because you don't know these guys. They're coming in. You got 26 games, and then if you make tournaments more, and then they're gone. So it's like you just don't remember. You don't have those memories that 110 games you watch this kid.
We sound like a bunch of guys.
I mean, I
move on. Like just
Well, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, the only game I went to this year was the Butler Nova game, and one of Maryland's best players was Hakeem Hart, and I thought he graduated, and I went to the Butler Nova game, and I'm like, I texted Dustin, I'm like, did you know Hakeem Hart is playing for Villanova? Like, did we ever we didn't even hear that he was still playing college basketball. I thought he graduated. I thought, well, he's a fifth-year senior up there, but I had no idea. And I'm like, oh, these guys are just moving without me even knowing.
Yeah.
You have the COVID year. Like, when does that end? Who's the last class to have that?
I think this year, because 2020, right? So 2025, in theory, there shouldn't be any more holdovers unless there's like a red shirt situation, I would imagine.
Gotcha.
Dive back in
all right.
last...
we got off topic a little bit. We got one more region to break down, and it's the Midwest, and I think this is the region that could get a little weird. Purdue is the favorite to win the region. They're 7-1 to win the title. I think the Big Ten's track record in the tournament over the last few years has not been great. And Purdue last year losing as a 1 seed to a 16 definitely didn't help that. The 2 seed in this
Purdue's
region is
track
Tennessee.
record is just terrible in general.
Yeah, the 2 seed in this bracket is Tennessee. They kind of consistently get bounced a little earlier than people expect. Kansas and Gonzaga are in this little region, but Kansas and Gonzaga are not the programs they have been in the last couple of years. However, they're still well coached. They have they have some talent. The team I really like out of this region is Creighton. They barely lost in the Elite Eight last year, returned a lot of players, and I think they could really make a run as a 3 seed. What do you guys think about this region?
Yeah, I agree with you on Creighton. They've got the Cockbrenner guy. I mean, they've got a big. Their style is so fast, and again, it's a tournament style. It's not a slow down, grind it out like those. So they're hard to prepare for. When you win Thursday, got to play them Saturday. Like that. That's a hard team to prepare for. So I do like Creighton. I got them going pretty far, but I think this is Purdue's year. It's kind of crazy as it sounds. I think Purdue has been a top Purdue and Kansas are the only two teams in the last 5 years that have had a 4 seed or better, right? So, I mean, it looks like they've had awful tournament stuff, but they have an Elite Eight in there. They have a Sweet 16 in there. Now they have a couple bad losses, and that's what people remember. So they have had some tournament success. They got a whole bunch of guys that feel that loss from last year, obviously, and want to get rid of it. I think Edie's a monster. They're just such a tough team to prepare for, but also to ref, right? So that's usually what gets in. If Edie gets in foul trouble, they're a different team. But I think you're right on with Creighton. I got Creighton going pretty far as well. And then Zags is kind of a scary one too, just because, I mean, they've been to Sweet 16, like what, 8 straight years or something like this. So, I mean, they know how to win. But Creighton's your dark horse on that one too. But I got Purdue, and I got a best friend on staff there, so I stay with going with those friends.
Nothing against what you just said there. Actually, yeah, something against what you just said there. I don't give a damn what they did in the past. The past doesn't matter in this instance. I mean, if Zach Edey gets in foul trouble, you said it earlier, they are a completely different team. Completely.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to take the team that's more wholesome, that's got that, they're congealed. So yeah, I don't care if they went to 6 Elite Eights in the past 6 years. It doesn't matter. This team is this team. And because we're talking about transfer portal stuff, they're all new guys usually. So,
Well, Purdue doesn't have new guys though. Yeah. Like Purdue's got all the guys that were on last year.
Yeah,
for the most
all
part.
their guys are back. You're right.
Well, Lance Jones. So Lance Jones, I think Lance Jones is a difference maker. Again, he was in the Valley when I was in the Valley. I saw him go off for 35 on us. He's the difference maker in this tournament. Like, if he's playing well and makes shots, Purdue's going to go far. They need him to play well to help Edey, to alleviate some of that other pressure on Edey only. And obviously Braden Smith's a really good player, but the offensive guy is going to be Lance Jones. If he's playing well, Purdue can go really far.
Yeah, I think in terms of Purdue getting, if Edey gets in foul trouble, I think they have a potential round 2 matchup against TCU. TCU is a pretty good team in the Big 12 this year. Seeing at the beginning of the year that their senior's point guard is Jameer Nelson Jr. made me feel as old as I've ever felt. And they got a guy named Emmanuel Miller who averages like 17 a game too. He's a stud. But yeah, Jameer Nelson Jr. God, I remember him playing with Dwight Howard and Hito Turkoglu on the Magic. Like, doesn't seem like that long ago, and his son's a senior at TCU.
TCU should never win because they have a great court. I'm sorry.
That's funny.
There's that get off my lawn
Dixon on there too. Jamie Dixon's had some tournament success himself, right? So he knows how to coach a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that they would be a scary team. I forget. I watched them twice this year. I was trying to remember those games, and actually, Jameer Nelson Jr. may have hit a game winner on that game. But yeah, I mean that's definitely a scary team out of there. I wouldn't want to face them either.
And got to mention Oregon too. Dana Altman is a good coach. They got healthier throughout the season, and they're playing their best basketball now. So that's another team. I think they're an 11 seed. They're playing South Carolina in that first game. That's going to be interesting. I'm pretty excited to see that little.
They won't win either because they have a forest on their court. All right.
So I'm learning you don't like graphics. I'm learning you don't like graphics on the court. Is that what we're learning?
Man, you are a 70-year-old man.
I'm an angry elf today, dude. I'm an angry elf. All right.
I got a little West Coast bias, so I hate picking any teams like Gonzaga, Oregon, any of that stuff, just because Arizona. I mean, Arizona is probably the one that I respect the most, and I don't like St. Mary's. I hate their conference. I hate that they don't play a ton of people out here. Like, I mean, play some. I don't know. It always seems like they just can't get it done in the tournament, but maybe that's just my bias. But I was going to say, why don't we go around and say like our two final teams and who we think is going to win?
Yeah, I was going to say we've gone through each region. Who you guys have? I've got UConn UNC coming out of the left side, and I've got a little bit of a dark horse. I've got Creighton, and I've got Kansas. Oh, sorry, Creighton and Kentucky. Creighton and Kentucky.
I got
on that side.
so
I'm changing mine.
I went UConn, Carolina. That was those. I got Carolina winning, going to the title this year, and then I actually took Purdue to go to the championship game, beating. This is a little out of left field here. Wisconsin, who gets through that side.
Shit.
Yeah, I know. A little wild, a little left field.
I've got UConn, Nevada. Don't laugh.
Nevada.
Taking
And,
Alford
nice.
boys, huh?
Let's
Hey,
go.
there's going to always be one surprise. And then the other side, UK, or Kentucky and Tennessee. I got UConn, Tennessee, UConn.
Tennessee, Kyle, you were with us in Pittsburgh when we took down Texas and Barnes. He's never had any
I know.
success. Like, I mean, this
I know. He's like opposite of Izzo, but
yeah.
We were
know.
filling out we literally filled out our brackets this morning, and he's sitting at the table and he's like, he's halfway done. He goes, my bracket's already screwed.
It hasn't even been a game played. I was like, this thing is a mess already.
You weren't even through half of it yet. And you're like,
well,
this is a
you
mess.
you get so far out, you're like, well, I can't erase it. It's like, well, whatever. I'm just gonna keep it.
All right, I got UConn, UNC, with UConn going to the championship game. I got Houston and Creighton. I had Tennessee, but yeah, you guys kind of reminded me why I should not be taking Tennessee, and they disappoint me every year. I always take them to go further because I like Bruce Pearl when he but but yeah, I'm going Creighton and Houston on that side, and Creighton winning that game. UConn, Creighton. I'm taking UConn to win it all again, just because I know it's hard to do, but they just seem. I mean, like I said, I haven't watched a ton this year. I feel really uneducated this year, but UConn just looks great. So
yeah.
Do they win like they did last year though? I mean, they won every game by what, double digits every single game.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little closer this year, but
it'll be a little tighter this year.
I think they may have to have a buzzer beater mixed in there or something. It might be one of those years you got to get lucky.
I got Marquette over Arizona.
You got Marquette over Arizona?
Yep.
Love it. Love it.
All right. That's a little bit different than us. We needed some difference.
Yeah.
First tourney in seems like 25 years without Jim Nance on CBS. That's gonna suck. But we'll see. I think there's a couple things I wanted to talk about in terms of the selection committee stuff. I think the Big East kind of got screwed. There's 3-4 teams in the Big East that had a legitimate argument to be in the tournament that didn't get in. And that, I mean, St. John's, Providence, Seton Hall. I mean, you guys have any thoughts on that? Do you feel like the Big East kind of got screwed out of a couple more bids?
The answer to your question is yes. And before I even go any further on this, wouldn't it be odd if Jim Nance is not on the call this year and he went to Houston and Houston wins the whole damn show? It almost would be like sacrilegious.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, maybe he'd get to enjoy it as a spectator and not a commentator.
But to answer your question,
so I thought that as well, and obviously being from the Big East with Butler and stuff. But then I watched their NIT stuff, and I'm like, and I get it, it's different, but like they had, I mean, all four of those guys. I mean, they got Butler loses by 1 to Minnesota at home. I mean, Providence loses. Like it's like what I don't, that part kind of. So going into it, yes, they did, and then obviously they were probably mad or not. But to lose all those games kind of helped the committee be like, well, look, they weren't that good. I thought ISU, Indiana State, really got screwed. You know, I just being coached in that coached in that conference, seeing that, knowing how good Drake is, who won the like. We don't penalize Carolina or Purdue for not winning their championship, but I mean they won the Missouri Valley and 9th best league. Like you know you're going to eliminate them off of a 1-game championship thing. So that I thought they really got screwed. But Big East going into it, I agree. I was like, man, how do they only get that in? I thought St. John's for sure had a pretty big argument, but then they go and kind of stub their toe in the NIT.
Do we think they didn't get in because of the upsets that were in some of those mid-level conference tournaments?
For sure.
Yeah, I think the chair of the selection committee basically came out and said that this was the most bid stealers that they've ever seen on Sundays. So I think they had ideas for most of these teams, not most of them, a couple of these teams to get in that just kind of got stolen away by these smaller conference championship games going to going to teams that they didn't expect.
Well, even bigger conferences too, though, because I mean, NC State, right?
Yeah, NC State, Wisconsin.
I think Wisconsin. They would have been on the bubble. And he had did Colorado win? But I thought that might have been a one too. But maybe they ended up having a good enough. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, to your point, just it was a lot of bid stillers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so we got picks to win. I don't want to take too much of your guys' time. Is there anything, Brandon or Kyle, you guys want to plug while you're on here? Because I think we're getting ready to wrap up. Or anything anybody else wants to ask Brandon or Kyle? Silence. All right.
Does anyone have a sleeper that who's your dark horse? I'm taking Drake.
Well, you stole mine already. That was mine.
Well, sounds like that was Brandon's all along.
Yeah, come on.
I have McNeese State out to the Elite Eight.
Whoa,
I haven't beating Purdue. They're a 30-win team, right? It's like that's a lot of wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Where the hell is McNeese State?
It's in McNeese. McNeese, I don't know. Cone, you probably know, right?
I thought it was. I want to say like Tennessee or Louisiana because I mean Will Wade's the coach there. But I think it's maybe Louisiana or one of those down there.
It's South, yeah.
South something.
I feel
they were terrible. Was he a first-year coach there? Or is this his second year?
Yeah, no, I think it's first.
Yeah, maybe. They were terrible. I think they were terrible last year, right? And he's turned it around. He's
transfer portal.
Yep.
I've got New Mexico beating Clemson, beating Baylor.
Louisiana.
Lake Charles, Louisiana. Is that what you said?
Oh, got it right.
Wow, I would have never guessed that. I got New Mexico as my sleeper going a little far. I got them beating Clemson in the first round and upsetting Baylor in that second round, and then I think they have a chance to knock Arizona out if they can get that far too. Yeah.
I think my biggest sleeper going the furthest is probably Drake as well. I got them getting to the Sweet 16 and losing to Illinois. I got Baylor. They're not. I mean, they're a 3 seed. Got Baylor going in Elite 8, but other than
not
that,
much of a sleeper.
Nah.
All right, fellas.
Yeah.
Anybody else got one? Good. All right, fellas. Well, thanks again. This has been another episode of Gary Williams Stole My Lawn Furniture. Hopefully you guys were informed. Brandon, thanks for coming on. Kyle, thanks for setting this up and coming on as well. Yeah, if you guys want to see these guys on in the future, maybe comment, ask some questions, whatever. We'll maybe get them back at some point in the future. But we really appreciate you guys giving us your time, and let's watch some college basketball. We got 2 days of 12 to 12 college basketball.
Got about less than 30 minutes, it looks like.
Great talking shop with you guys.
Thank you.
See you, Brandon.
Absolutely.
See you guys.
Cheers.
Thank you, buddy.
Good guys.
Bye, guys.